Hey everyone, welcome to Papa's Workshop. I've been doing a lot of projects lately using the epoxy resin and making pens and various projects, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. Now, one of the things that I do not have is a good buffing system, and this is one that I went out and purchased from Harbor Freight, and it's just a inexpensive buffing wheel that I think is going to work. But one of the things that I also wanted to do is take a look around the shop to see if I could find pieces and parts to put this whole project together. Because over the years, you do gather up different items from buffing the cars and different things that, who knows, I might have enough to be able to create my own buffing system to be able to put on the lathe. Now, I was digging through the different parts, and I found this little bitty small buffing wheel. Now, this is really too small to do the epoxy resins and things. As I was starting to go through some of the old boxes and things that I had, I found this real old buffing wheel, and as you can see, it's been used quite a bit. But you know what? You can still make a buffing system even out of something that's old. I also was able to find a bolt and the nut that goes with this to be able to make a very simple buffing pad. Because I can slip this right through there and then put this nut on. Let's go over here and put it into the lathe. At the lathe, all I need to do is just take this off. And I want to put in this drill chuck. I'll put that right in there. And then I'll attach this to it. Now this, of course, is one of the most simple buffing systems that you can have. Just a simple drill chuck with a buffing pad in it, and that would work just fine for a one-wheel buffing system. And you can polish things quite nicely with this setup. Now, although this is a very simple one-wheel system, it does work and it could get you started. What I want to be able to do is create a 2 or even a 3-wheel buffing system to be able to put onto the lathe. After looking around the shop, I have found quite a few different items. One of the things that I found is this 3/8 inch all-thread rod. Now this is actually a little bit small. I would prefer a 1/2 inch, but again, I want to make this project out of things that I have. And I also found 2 little small wheels. One of them's about 1.5 inches, and another one I think is about a 2.5 inch wheel. Quite small, in fact maybe too small. And then I found, again, this old one that's been around the shop for quite a while. Along with the threaded rod, I have quite a few different nuts and washers to be able to put on here. So let's see what we can create. Now, one of the simplest ways to do this is put the nut onto the all-thread rod and then just simply add the washer and the buffing wheel followed by another washer and then put the nut on. And that's a real simple way to be able to make the buffing wheel. And this can be tightened down. You don't have to make it real tight, but that would be plenty. And then you can take this in and put it into the chuck onto the lathe. Now we still need to work on the other end, but this would give you a real easy, simple way to be able to attach it. Now I found an old dowel rod that I'm going to use to make this Morse taper. And of course the first thing I need to do is make sure that it's good and round and centered. So I'm just going to use a skew chisel to be able to get this all turned nice and round. And then from there, I'll take the actual Morse taper and use some layout lines to be able to get the correct sizes that I want to be able to make my own. And quite frankly, this took less than a half hour to be able to make my own. And it was a lot of fun to be able to do it. To establish the correct diameter, I'm choosing the 2 wrenches of the correct diameter. And to me, this works a whole lot better and it's easier to be able to do than just with the calipers. Oftentimes, that's a lot easier than using the calipers to be able to do that. And plus, you save the wear and tear on the calipers. So I just find the 2 appropriate wrenches to be able to establish the diameter of the Morse taper. And then I can create my own. Once I have the 2 endpoints of this Morse taper, then I can just basically connect the dots. Clear out the material in between, add a taper, and that would be it. That's all that's necessary. And just like that, the Morse taper, homemade version, is done. Now I need to be able to put in a T-nut, which is not my first choice, but that's what I have. So I have this now set up so I can get the tailstock out of the way. And the first thing I want to do is drill down just a little small bit to be able to handle the shoulder of the T-nut. So that just needs to be recessed just a little bit, and that will work perfect. And then I'll change bits and I'll drill out the center so that I can mount this T-nut in position. A threaded wood insert would be far superior. Unfortunately, I don't have a 3/8 inch threaded insert, so I'm going to have to stay with this T-nut. This system I think will work just fine, although in the future I'm sure I'm going to change this out, make an additional Morris taper, and use a 3/8 inch or even a 1/2 inch threaded insert. Now, one of the things I'd like to do is use these brand new wheels that I picked up from the Harbor Freight. But there's one problem. This hole is huge. This is a 3/4 inch hole, and I didn't realize it when I bought it. I saw the buffing wheels, I grabbed them, and I bought them. And when I got home, I realized this is a 3/4 inch hole, and the rod that I have is 3/8 of an inch. Big difference. And that works fine if you had this small wheel with the hole in it, because that would slip through the washer and the nut on each side, and that solves the problem. So how am I going to fix this problem with this great big hole? Well, the first thing that I did is I said, well, I can cut a 3/4 inch piece of PVC, and that will actually slip inside of it. But that still doesn't make it where I can actually tighten this to each side. So it was off to the 3D printer, and I printed out these little guys right here. And that is a bushing that is going to fit perfectly into this wheel. Now this is going to go right into that wheel, and then that can slip on just like that. And that will take care of my problem. I designed a bushing in the Tinkercad software, which is a free software that you can use, and it literally took about 10 minutes to be able to design these bushings. And then at the 3D printer, it took about 30 minutes to print each one of these bushings, but they fit perfect and they work fantastic. So it's great having the 3D printer in the shop to be able to solve problems like this. So the first thing we can do, we can take these washers and discard them because they're not going to work for us. But I do have a nut that I have put on here. I'm going to slide on a washer. And then I'm going to take a piece of the PVC. Now I made this 4.5 inches. You can really make this any size that you want. But I'm going to slip my bushing into there. Slide that onto my 3/8 inch rod. I'll slide another bushing on. That'll go right in there, and that provides a good, solid, stable anchor point. Then I can slip this on with a bushing. And now that gives me a stable place for this to be able to spin. Slide on another one. That can just butt right up to it. Put that in there like that. We'll do the same thing on this side. Put this bushing on, and that will give me a 2 buffing wheel. Now if I wanted to use this real old one as a third one, I can do that also. I can just slip it on, and that would give me a 3-wheel system. And I think I'm going to do that just for the heck of it. We'll slip this washer on. I'll add a nut. And now I have a 3-wheel buffing system that we need now to take over to the lathe, and we'll get it set up on there. So this is the first test of my new buffing system. So when we turn it on, you can see that it's going to work perfect. This is what I wanted. Now there's many ways to be able to create your own buffing system, and this worked out well for me, and it was able to use those buffing wheels that had those great big huge holes in it. Now granted, it was nice having that 3D printer to be able to help solve the problem, but there's other solutions that would be available. It's just a matter of the creativity that you have. But as for how does it work, I'm just taking a piece of wood just to see without any buffing compound on the wheel, and it does. It works really well. I can hardly wait to be able to try this out with the actual resin projects and being able to buff it out to even a better, higher gloss than I've had in the past. So I'm very happy to be able to have this type of a system in the shop finally after all these years of doing the different projects. I now have my own buffing system that I can use on the lathe anytime that I have a project. I want to thank everybody for watching this video today. It was a lot of fun being able to go around the shop and find different parts that I needed to create this buffing system. The only thing that I really had to buy was the Harbor Freight buffing wheels, just so I had some new ones, and that presented a whole different problem with those holes being so large. But it's really nice having the 3D printer in the shop to be able to print out the different bushings or whatever part that you need to be able to solve the problem. Now that I have this buffing system, this is going to allow me to continue being able to make some resin projects. And you're not going to want to miss out on these projects, because one of the things that I'm going to be experimenting with is some new products by the Starbond company. That's right, this is a brand new mica powder that you're going to find at the Starbond company. This is going to be amazing, and I can't wait to be able to try it out. So if you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing right down there and hit that little bell notification, because in addition to this mica powder, they have some other exciting products that we're going to be using in the resin, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So for now, again, I want to thank everybody for watching. Can't wait to see you in the shop real soon. So for now, bye-bye.